Hi, it's Michael. It is said the mind is a cloud of assumptions. In this world, the mind has a certain purpose, certain value or validity, but we have become so enamored and so hypnotized by the mind that basically the mind took over our lives. The mind is a collection of experiences, of either subjectively experienced things or programming, teachings, advertisements, news, and so on. So the mind is a collection of things. And as Dr. David Hawkins said, at best, its collection of information can be called provisionary. And as pretty much every enlightened spiritual teacher says, that the contents of the mind is pretty much BS. Now, you may think, so if the content of the mind is BS, how about useful inventions, positive things that have been invented? So, and that's the main point of this talk, is everything that is beneficial to good health, to the society, to higher good, comes from our essence, from the spirit. Everything, 100%. It doesn't come from the mind. What happens is the spirit posts the information on the bulletin board of the mind, so to speak, and the mind takes over the information and kind of confiscates it. It takes ownership of it and says, I invented it, I thought of that, it was my idea, my invention, I wrote the song, and so on, which is of course inaccurate. If it's positive, then it came from the spirit, and the mind just took over it and repeated it. And many times the mind twists it, wittingly or unwittingly. So sometimes what comes from the spirit is not 100% what actually the mind spits out into the world. So again, the main point of this talk is everything that's worth of something healthy, positive, and good for our lives comes from the spirit, and the mind just repeats it. It is possible to step away from the mind and to start observing it, to watch it, to witness it, and in doing so the mind will take on less and less importance, and eventually it will diminish greatly to its rightful role as a servant, not as the master. And of course the best way of doing that, observing the mind, is by being aware, by living with awareness. And the meditations, especially silent meditations, are a huge part of this, where the individual just breathes deeply in a relaxed, natural way, and just melts into the present moment, just relaxes into the present moment and just observes the mind. The mind may yap a lot, that's fine, but the meditator is not engaging it, it's just observing it. Now, there are certain things that make it harder for us to assume the rightful place of the mind's master rather than a slave, and that throw the wrench in the gearing, so to speak. And those things are, of course, stuff like negative intentions, unhealthy things, negative entertainment, and toxins. And the most commonly used toxins that almost everybody uses are alcohol, drugs, smoking, that even in tiny amounts, infrequently, can create disturbances and distractions for the awareness, not just health-wise, but spiritually, energy-wise. So abstaining from these toxins, smoking, drugs, alcohol. There are other toxins, of course, unhealthy stuff like coffee, pork products, and so on. And abstaining from negative entertainment, of course, asking the higher power for help, very important, so-called praying, positive affirmations. That's all very important. There is also a healthcare technique that is of immensely great value in helping to diminish the mind's control over our lives, and that is neuro-emotional technique, NET, neuro-emotional technique, which is designed to detect emotional blocks within the body and clear them. And it's in a huge part to these emotional blocks that we are kind of stuck in the mind thing, in the mindfulness, that we are full of it. We are too much in it. Once we start getting rid of these emotional blocks and our energy system can flow better, we start centering, and when we are centered, we live with more awareness and we can be more watchful, more observing. And of course, chiropractic goes hand in hand with it and helps to the energy system, the nervous system, to flow better, and also helps with awareness, with centering. So that's all for this talk. If you have any questions or comments, they can be left below the video. Michael out.